Daniel Jose Older's works in the Star Wars The High Republic multimedia series has included the middle grade novel Race to Crash Point Tower, the juvenile comic Star Wars The High Republic Adventures, the comic miniseries Trail of Shadows, and in February of 2022, Midnight Horizon, a young adult novel. It's not giving anything away to say that you will understand Midnight Horizon better if you have knowledge of Older's other works within the High Republic series. Besides seeing Reath Silas and his master Cohmac Vitas, who have appeared in the previous young adult novels, we also see Padawan Ram Jomarin from Race to Crash Point Tower, Padawan Lula Talisola, Zeen, and Master Cantum from the High Republic adventures. And plot points are referenced from all of those stories. It deepens the world of the High Republic for better or for worse. So first, a brief summary. When word comes of a suspected Nile attack on the industrial cosmopolitan world of Corellia, Masters Cohmac Vitas and Cantum Sai, as well as Padawans Ram Jomarin and Reath Silas, are dispatched to find out what happened. Reath and Ram meet up with a Corellian local named Crash, who is trying to uncover what happened to her friend and co-worker, and the Padawans team up with Crash to infiltrate Corellia's elite, while the Masters take a more diplomatic path. But what they will uncover on Corellia is a part of a much greater plan that could lead to the Jedi's greatest defeat. So first, a timeline disclaimer. Midnight Horizon is set pretty much concurrently with the other stories set during Part 3 of this first phase of the High Republic project. The second half of the story here covers a lot of the climactic events that happen in Claudia Gray's adult novel, The Fallen Star. So while our heroes are on a different planet, what is happening there is all interconnected with this greater Nile plan. So first, the good. I like all the characters here, and I like getting to see what everyone is going through, as you would expect for especially these very young Jedi who have been thrown into this galaxy-wide conflict. They're each not dealing with it well in different ways. The Jedi have never faced conflict or war like this within any of their lifetimes. So Ram is really struggling with feeling anything. He just feels no emotions, dead, until a certain point where he becomes overwhelmed with emotions and then is trying to balance the two. That obviously you don't want to feel nothing, but as a Jedi you can't feel everything. You have to learn how to reach some sort of balance between those two extremes. With Reath, he really wants to know and needs to know if he is on the right path and if what he is doing is what he's supposed to do. But as he learns throughout the story is that if you're following the will of the Force, you can't really predict or plan things. And so it's letting go of some of that control that he wants to have, that throughout his journey in these young adult novels, he's been learning that he needs to step beyond what he's comfortable with, go outside of the archives on Coruscant, and that in the process, he won't always know what's to come and what role he's going to play. Just trust that the Force will guide him as he needs to be. And something that I think makes a lot of sense for the Jedi of the prequel era that came to the Jedi Order as babies and so didn't choose the life of a Jedi, the life of a monastic celibate monk warrior basically, is that Zeen and Lula are really struggling with their relationship, their friendship here, that if Lula wants to go any further within the Jedi Order, she has to have no attachments. But she and Zeen are really close, and how can you reconcile that? We see from Master Cantum's story that some Jedi have done walkabouts, have temporarily left the Order because of those restrictions on their life and then returned on it. So it will be interesting to see how their relationship plays out in future books, but probably more in future comics, since Zeen and Lula mostly appear in the High Republic adventures. And I liked getting to meet Crash, who is a Tuckerization of the writer of the Dr. Aphra comic, Alyssa Walm. Although I have to question all these characters, especially within the young adult novels, who are like business people at really, really young ages. Crash is only 16. Her mom retired from their diplomatic bodyguard business and Crash took it over. And I know that within the Star Wars universe, people tend to do stuff at very young ages, like within the Legends series. We have Gavin Darklighter joining Rogue Squadron at 16, but feels like a lot of responsibility for someone who's so young, and throughout the story, Crash struggles with it. That this is something she's really interested in, this is something she wants to do, but it's a lot of responsibility to put on her shoulders. And I did think once we got to the halfway point and got to the Nile attack on Corellia, that it was very exciting. I was turning the pages quickly, wanting to know what happened next. I liked the introduction of some of the things like the strange drill ship that ram pilots that maybe will show up in phase 2 of the High Republic books or comics or what have you, since it's old. It felt like there was a lot of things being set up for future stories. I'm just not sure if we're gonna get any stuff covering them in the next phase since it's a prequel, or if we're gonna have to wait until phase 3, whenever that is. But on the more meh front, when I was reading Race to Crash Point Tower, Older's middle grade novel, I felt like it was very silly that Older's sense of humor skews towards silly and jokey and bantering, but in a very juvenile way. And that's here too in Midnight Horizon, especially in the beginning, before they're sent to Corellia, and even the beginning bits when they're on Corellia. Older's sense of humor just doesn't really jive with me, and I think it fits better with middle grade than with young adult. There were times, especially in the first half of the story, where I really questioned why this story was young adult at all. And the only reasons I could think was because of the emotional turmoil that all the Jedi were going through, the relationship issues that Zeen and Lula were having felt more teen to me, but at the same time, the tone of the story felt younger. But then when we got to the halfway point and the Nile started attacking, it did get more violent, and I could see why this was categorized as young adult rather than middle grade. I think too, to be honest, when I started reading Midnight Horizon, according to Goodreads, it was February, and then we had a lot of very upsetting world events happened, and just that jokey tone wasn't working for me at that point in time. So I put it down and I picked it back up in May, had to start back over at the beginning and read through all the way again. So I think it was very much it's not the book, it's me. I also felt like it didn't help that the setup felt a bit slow and a bit hard to get into. The prologue of the story is when Crash's friend and co-worker goes missing, presumed dead, and that was exciting, but then we cut back to the Jedi getting ready for multiple missions, and we have like wrap up of the plot that's been going on in the High Republic adventure comics and a lot of silly stuff. And I think that was why it was so easy for me to put it down several months ago, that the combination of the tone not working for me and the pace being a bit slow meant that I didn't feel like I was missing anything out when I put it down for a while. And finally, while I thought it was interesting how Older got into all these different characters' heads, what I was really surprised by was that Master Cohmac Vitas, Reath's master, is going through huge amounts of emotional turmoil. And when we get to the end of the book, he makes the drastic decision to leave the Jedi Order. It's not a sabbatical. It's not a temporary walkabout. He's permanently leaving it. But we never got within his head at all. What we understand of what Cohmac is going through is filtered through the other characters. And I don't know if it was because he's an adult character and this is a young adult novel, but I really would have liked to see exactly what his thought process was. And just going along with the whole pace issue, for a young adult novel, Midnight Horizon is pretty beefy. My physical hardback version is almost 500 pages long, and for a young adult novel especially, I think that's just too long, and I think that some judicious editing could have solved some of the issues I had, especially at the beginning where I felt like it was slow to get off the ground. So in short, Midnight Horizon details what Reath Silas from the young adult novels, as well as a number of characters from the middle grade novels, as well as the High Republic adventure comics, are up to while Starlight Beacon falls apart. I like the second half of the story much more than the first half, because with the first half I had issues with tone and pace. I liked getting to see what the different characters were going through within the story, even if I felt like there was one very pivotal omission from the viewpoints that we were given.